From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Tuesday, March 18th, and here are today's headlines. State leaders continue their work to overhaul Vermont's education system amid the uncertainty caused by the gutting of the U.S. Department of Education. A plan put forth by Governor Phil Scott includes consolidating school districts, transforming the education funding model, and cutting spending. One program on the chopping block: Universal School Meals, a program providing free breakfast and lunch to students regardless of their family income. Yesterday, on Vermont Edition, Senate Education Committee Chair Seth Bongartz said the program has bipartisan support. He believes it's here to stay.
It's part of the landscape now. It's not going to go anywhere. And I think within the legislature, there is very deep support for the school meals program. I really think it would take really something dramatic to change that.
Universal school meals were fully federally funded during the pandemic. Then in 2023, the legislature voted to fund the program indefinitely with state dollars. And coming up after these headlines, we'll hear what Vermont's Secretary of Education, Zoie Saunders, has to say about the effect huge staff cuts at the U.S. Department of Education may have on academics in Vermont. State biologists are urging Vermonters to take down bird feeders, secure garbage, and raise electric fences around their livestock. That's because black bears are starting to venture out of their winter dens. State wildlife biologist Jacqueline Comeau says the animals have been seen across Vermont in recent weeks, including in Putney, Heinsberg, and Dorset.
It's really important this time of year to take those precautions now because there's not a lot of other food on the landscape. So it makes your bird feeder, your garbage, your backyard livestock much more appealing to these animals.
Comeau says bear activity has consistently started in mid-March in recent years. One trick to minimize odors from garbage is to attach a rag or sponge soaked in ammonia to cans. Some other news related to the animal world. The Vermont Department of Fish and Wildlife is holding public meetings this week on proposed changes to deer, moose, and turkey hunting regulations. The agency says it wants to increase the number of hunters who can kill female deer because some parts of the state are overpopulated. The proposal also calls for allowing archery during the regular season, which isn't currently legal. There's a public hearing today at 6:30 p.m. in Orleans and at the same time Thursday in Montpelier. Public comment is open until May 25th, and you can find details on this week's gatherings at vtfishandwildlife.com. Lawmakers are considering a new state office to better coordinate services for the roughly 30,000 immigrants in Vermont. More than 25 advocates signed a, quote, urgent request this month asking lawmakers to strengthen support systems for immigrants. They cited cuts to federal funding for refugee resettlement and the fact that the current state refugee office is not able to serve all foreign-born Vermonters. Tracy Dolan is the state refugee office director.
When it comes in for anyone outside of refugee status, other immigrants, there is no landing place, so it comes to us and we try to scramble. I would say we are inadequate.
The Senate Government Operations Committee voted 5-0 last week to advance a bill to study the creation of an Office of New Americans. And coming up, now that she's been confirmed as Vermont's new education secretary, Zoie Saunders is trying to gauge the impact big changes at the federal education department may have in the state. We'll hear what she said yesterday on Vermont Edition about the uncertainty after this.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency, where support comes from VITA, supporting business growth and innovation in the Green Mountain State. From agriculture to manufacturing, energy to food production, find solutions that turn your business dreams into reality. Visit VEDA.org and see how VITA can help make it happen.
There's a lot of upheaval in the world of public education these days, both in Vermont and at the national level. On Vermont Edition yesterday, host Michaela Lafrac spoke with State Education Secretary Zoie Saunders about the ongoing debate over Governor Phil Scott's education reform proposal and about how the Trump administration's cuts to the Department of Education could impact Vermont's schools.
Before we get to Vermont's efforts to transform its education system, let's focus on this gutting of the U.S. Department of Education. The words I have been hearing the most here are chaos and uncertainty. Is that how you feel as well?
Yes, the changes certainly have created a tremendous amount of uncertainty, creating a lot of questions and fear. a lot of what our role has been at the Agency of Education is first, we're seeking not to create more fear or anxiety. And second, we're working really diligently to provide actionable guidance after we evaluate the different directions coming from Washington, D.C., so that we can support our schools. You did note the reduction in force. It's yet to be determined exactly how that will impact Vermont, but it has been a significant reduction. In January, the department stated that its workforce stood about 4,000 workers, and after the recent reduction in force and voluntary separation opportunities, USAID said its workforce will be at roughly about 2,000. So we're looking at about a 50% reduction in force. And we recently received a letter from the USAID that provided more details around where that reduction of force is occurring and which offices are staying largely intact. And that's giving us a better sense of where the potential impacts might be as we look at changes and impacts on Vermont schools.
Are there certain areas that are going to be impacted heavily that you're concerned about?
Yeah, so there's two areas that appear to be impacted significantly, which is the Office of Civil Rights and also the research arm of USAID. So as we think about the Office of Civil Rights, that certainly plays an important role in protecting students with disabilities above and beyond the protections that are built in at the state level. And then regarding to a reduction in the research staff, that could have an impact on our ability as a country to really evaluate overall performance, and in Vermont, for us to compare how our students are performing to other states so that we can really learn from those best practices in other states to continue to improve our learning opportunities in Vermont. We do know that the Office of Special Education has not been impacted by the reduction in force, so that is promising as it is related to a goal of continuing to support students with disabilities. The letter indicated that a lot of the reduction is related to more of the administrative and clerical work and trying to really remove redundancies and duplication of effort. There's also a number of employees that oversee the drawdown of COVID relief dollars who have either taken advantage of the voluntary option to be removed from the department or have been let go. And so that we do expect will impact the timing of drawing down on what we call late liquidation of those COVID relief dollars until they're able to realign that workload with others in the department. And we've already communicated to the field that we do expect a delay in the drawdown of our title program allocations, which states usually receive in the spring. And that has happened before in the past. So we have protocols at the Agency of Education to navigate that now that we know the resolution has been passed and we have an understanding of the budget and the amount that will be available for the next academic year.
Well, let's hone in on all the work that's going on at the state level to reimagine how our education system could be administered and paid for. Governor Scott's education plan would consolidate the more than 100 school districts in Vermont down to just 5. Some people think it should be more like 9, 10, 11, 12 districts. Why do you think 5 is the right amount? And what difference does it make?
We did not come to the 5-district model by accident. It really followed a methodical process where we evaluated the impact and really what we could achieve at that scale with the funding amount proposed. We are aware that there's other alternatives that are being proposed, and the governor has mentioned on multiple occasions that we're open to looking at different district configurations. We have developed a rubric to help us evaluate the degree to which other configurations can still help to meet those objectives. And there might be additional objectives that the legislature identifies as they're considering different lines to draw. I think there's a misconception around the plan that it's really about closing schools. What we're talking about is there's different ways to operate schools to really achieve that efficiency. And we've seen some incredible small schools in rural areas that are doing just that. And we've provided some strategies also through the budgeting process to be able to identify those best practices of how you can operate a smaller school and see really great opportunities for your students. And this plan also calls for really a reduction in the number of independent schools that would be eligible for public dollars, and thinking about intentionally how those schools would operate within the education ecosystem based on the district's determination around how to the needs of their student population.
Do you believe that for-profit education institutions in Vermont are currently being held to the same standards as public schools?
What this proposal puts forward, Governor Scott's proposal, is to really increase the shared accountability. And what that means is that there's the same amount of funding that would be distributed, and also there would be the same expectations for achieving performance outcomes. And that's really critical when you think about evaluating the impact of public dollars. In our current system, we have a lot of different pathways to take advantage of school choice. And I would say they're actually more expansive than most other states allow. This proposal is managing school choice in a way that is ensuring high levels of accountability and also equity, and being intentional about positioning school choice in a way that's strengthening public schools, so that we're intentional about building an ecosystem that works. And where there may not be a public school available, and districts have relied on independent schools to provide that service, and they're doing a great job providing that, particularly at the high school level, that would continue.
Secretary, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
And that was Vermont Edition's Michaela Lefrak. You can listen to the full interview with Saunders anywhere you get your podcasts or at vermontpublic.org. Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Michaela Lefrak, Lexi Krupp, Jen Jarecki, Brittany Patterson, and Elodie Reed. Our executive producer is Kevin Trevelyan, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. Talk to you tomorrow.
Each morning, it's a new opportunity, a chance to start fresh. Up First from NPR makes each morning an opportunity to learn and to understand. Choose to join the world every morning with Up First, a podcast that hands you everything going on across the globe and down the street, all in 15 minutes or less. Start your day informed and anew with Up First by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts.